And we're live. Welcome to Fertility Talks. I'm Mary Wong, and I am the founder of Alive Holistic Health Clinic, author of Pathways to Pregnancy, and your fertility strategist. Tonight, this is live post number 166, so welcome. And we are going to be talking about fertility testing at home. And I'm so thrilled to have two guests with us. And so I'm going to go straight in and introduce you. So Alyssa, wave hi to everyone so that we know who you are.
Hey.
Thank you for being here. So Alyssa is the founder and CEO of Lilia, a place for women to order fertility hormone testing from home and access clinic and doctor information and connect with a supportive community of women living a similar experience. With Lilia, women experience seamless transitions in their fertility journey as their needs change from information to action to emotional support. Lilia has been featured in Forbes, the Globe and Mail, and Flair magazine. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
And also we have Dr. Prati Sharma, who is a fertility doctor from Create Fertility Center. She's a American board certified reproductive endocrinologist and has been practicing at Create Fertility Center for the last 12 years. She is a graduate from the prestigious Cornell and Columbia University before moving to Toronto to practice. She's a founder of the fertility blog, The Conception Diaries, and the medical advisory board chair at Lilia, which is a fertility testing company. So thank you for being here as well to comment and have your input in this really important conversation at this really precarious time, right? Because fertility clinics are not as accessible as they used to be. So women and couples are thinking, gosh, what can I do at home? So let's do a deep dive into this conversation. But to start, I would love to hear how you, Alyssa, even started this company. Like, do you have a story to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Lilia is the company that I wish existed as I started navigating my kind of fertility and life planning journey, and really was the solution to my own problem. So the impetus for it was I was in this long-term relationship, 10 years with my high school sweetheart that had come to an end when I was 27. And my stepmom had gone through early menopause when she was 36. So something I didn't even know could happen. And these were the kind of events that just put fertility on my radar. It hadn't been something I really thought about before. And then the real tipping point for me was I was in this new relationship with someone younger than me, and we weren't aligned on our timeline to kids. And, I started doing the dating math that so many women do, which is like, okay, if I have to have a kid by the time I'm 35, which was this number I had heard, well, I need to be with someone, we need to be in love for a few years. I need to date for a year. I need to, a year to kind of get over this. And so I was like, okay, I need to have met the right guy yesterday. And I didn't want to plan my life around this reproductive timeline. And so I turned, like most of us do, to Google and spent hours on the internet trying to find out what my options were. And I found mostly, scattered literature, and it was just hard to navigate what I should do next. And I learned that there was this fertility hormone test that you could take. And it took me a long time to get there. It took me 3 in-person appointments and 3 months just to get this testing done. But what I learned from that testing was so important and informative. And I learned about, my body, that I had PCO. So one that would make, timing ovulation tricky, but also that I was a great candidate for egg freezing, and which is the path I eventually went down. And after I froze my eggs, I just felt this power and, freedom because I had done it so early at 29. And while egg freezing is certainly not 100% guarantee, I wish I had known that it's something better done earlier on. And so, I really wanted Lilia to be this space where women could explore their options in a very, non-intimidating, easy way. They could get started from home. They could understand their bodies, connect with incredible fertility specialists like Dr. Sharma, and really celebrate themselves for being proactive and kind of planning life on their terms.
I love that. And how empowering is that for women, right?
It was. So, and in the beginning too, I would say, I am not a fertility doctor myself. I have a background in tech and marketing and startups. And so when I I had heard about this test. I needed to find out, is this something that's reliable? Like, what do fertility doctors think about that? And so I found Dr. Sharma, and we, she was totally aligned in this vision of women should have more access and understand their options and be able to navigate this space earlier in their lives. And we just looked at each other and we're like, let's do this. And so she's been super important from the beginning in making sure that, the medicine, or I guess the medical standards are up to a really high bar, and that the patient care is superlative so that women can feel they're in good hands.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for sharing your story. Now, is it too personal to ask you how old you are?
Not at all. I'm an open book. Let's go anywhere.
Women are always curious,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
How old is she? That's the first thing they look at.
Yeah, I'm 29. I'm turning 30 next month, actually. I hear it's the best. So is this true?
Sure. I don't tie my life around age.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people do. And especially when it comes to the fertility world, there is a connection with age, right? So I try not to really associate with anything, but
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited.
That's awesome. And it'll be interesting navigating this, because with the COVID, I don't know how much you're going to be able to do in terms of like travel or be with friends. So I'm sure.
I know I had this big party planned, and I've not given up hope yet. Maybe I should be more realistic, but I'm hoping it can still happen.
Something will happen.
Something will happen.
Yeah. Anyway, let's redirect.
Yes.
And so the question is, what is fertility hormone testing at home? What does that look like? What is it? Why would someone do it?
Yeah. So when Dr. Sharma and I started thinking about this, I asked her, what is the right way to do this? And so, probably maybe you can speak more to this, but the idea was to take, mostly the same blood test that a woman would get if she went to a fertility clinic, mainly looking at AMH, and create the ability to measure those hormones from home. And so there's nothing really new about the technology. Finger prick blood testing has been around for a while. This hormone panel has been around for a while, and we're just really repurposing it for fertility. And so, we validated with St. Michael's Hospital that doing the hormone test from home would be pretty much the same as doing it at the clinic. And so Dr. Sharma conceptualized, which hormones to test, and reviews every result. And so the way it works is someone will order their kit. It'll arrive in what I might say is very beautiful packaging. I should have had one here to show you, actually. They'll collect their sample. It comes with a little candy in there for you because it sucks poking your finger. It's shipped to the lab for analysis. The result is reviewed by Dr. Sharma, and you get this really beautiful report breaking down what your hormone levels are, and can book a call with Dr. Sharma after that.
Right.
And, reasons I'm hearing from women why they're ordering their tests right now is they don't really want to leave the house, kind of limiting exposure. And it's a convenient way to take a first step. I don't know if, Patty, there's anything you'd want to add to that.
I can certainly comment. I think that the world is changing, and technology in all aspects of healthcare has really burgeoned in the last 5 years. I mean, I kind of feel like I'm an old fogey when you say you're 29, Alyssa, although I still feel young.
You are.
I feel like I've seen things change in the world of human reproduction and fertility over the last 10 years. And so I've really seen an increase in women really feeling like they want to be in control of their reproductive health and their future. And so in the last 5 years, there's been a lot more consults for fertility evaluation and egg freezing and whatnot. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes a woman just wants to know kind of, is she fertile or not? She doesn't want to necessarily get a referral and drag herself to the fertility clinic and have a full consult. So this is a natural first step. And you're right, when we both were talking initially, AMH, which I'll just explain that a little bit more for the audience who might not know. Obviously, the three of us know, but AMH is really sort of the best marker we have for how many eggs you have left and the quality of eggs you have. And it changes linearly. So the younger you are, the higher the levels, the older you are, the lower the levels. And it's a hormone that's produced by the eggs themselves. So pretty simple mathematics. The more eggs you have and higher quality eggs, the higher the number will be. So that was our target hormone. But given that from a pinprick, you could measure a couple other hormones, we figured, hey, you're doing it. So you can get some basic other hormones that are also quite important for reproduction. And those include the thyroid test. The thyroid gland and thyroid hormone metabolism is very important, as you know as well, Mary, for reproduction, pregnancy, miscarriage risk, and just general well-being. So it's a hormone that's very commonly perturbed in young women. And so we decided to check that as well. The hormone that goes alongside with it is prolactin, which is responsible for milk secretion from the breast. And then as you were talking about with polycystic ovary syndrome, this is a very common syndrome in young reproductive age women. So we decided to check a male hormone level called testosterone. So that panel of 4 hormones is what's tested by the Lilia test. And just those 4 blood tests alone really do give you a nice snapshot of your reproductive profile. But as Alyssa also said, we offer a free consultation with myself to talk about those hormone levels and then to talk about next steps for a woman who's interested in learning more about her body or wants to pursue additional treatment.
Okay, so I guess I was thinking also, how about for those women that are or have been at the fertility clinic, but then now with COVID, they're not able to, is it suitable for people in that category?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak and Alyssa can add. Absolutely. I mean, I have a number of patients who liaison with the clinic, but then it was a full stop, right? With COVID, everything shut down and they couldn't have their ultrasound to look at their egg count. They couldn't start checking their hormones. And so absolutely, a patient like that could easily do the Lilia test and get some information. But I think even outside of Lilia, like outside of COVID, sorry, I think Lilia is not just for the single woman who wants to know about her eggs. We've sort of widened the patient profile to women who are in a relationship, but maybe want to travel the world and are not ready to conceive with their partner yet. Or, I mean, and I hear from all these patients, so I hear all the stories, dating and relationships have changed so much in the last 10 years. Now, people live together for 4 years before they even think about marriage or kids, right? So I've heard stories of women, and this is not an uncommon situation, where a woman is with a guy and they have no plans of getting pregnant in the next 5 years. And they talk about having a baby at 40, but of course, women know that things change. And so they want to see where they're at, discuss embryo freezing. We also see patients come to Lilia who have actually been trying for 6 months and they don't want to go to the year mark and then see a fertility clinic. They're like, I'm at this 6-month point. I just want to check out and if things are okay. And then if things look okay, maybe I'll try for a few more months on my own before I see the fertility clinic. So many, many different scenarios. It doesn't just have to be the young single woman.
Yeah. And
100%.
I think Prati touched on something really important here, which is, I think this is one of the very common misconceptions about like fertility. And I think of it as more than just fertility planning, but planning for my life. We think, you only need to really take a look at this if you're over 35 and single. And it's just not true, right? What we know about fertility is it's not binary. It's not static. It changes over time, whether you're in a relationship or not. And while I'm rooting for your relationship, sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. And our eggs still age as we're in these relationships. And so it can actually be something that's really beneficial for the relationship, for the couple to kind of make a plan together and understand what are the parts that they're working with. And so I'd say actually half of our members are in a relationship or married and are just looking for information and an easy next step to start understanding their bodies.
I think that's really great. Now, you mentioned 4 hormones. Would you expand into, let's say, testing estrogen and progesterone levels?
Yeah, I mean, when Alyssa and I were brainstorming and had one of our many sessions where we were talking about what to test for, we did think about FSH, estrogen, and LH, but we want to kind of simplify the kit. Once you start saying, oh, you have to be on a particular day of your cycle because FSH, estrogen, and progesterone change over the menstrual cycle, it gets more complicated. And sort of the spirit of this test is doing it once and finding out the basics, and then certainly moving on to see a fertility clinic and getting that additional testing. I will say, from having spoken to many of the patients who do the Lilia test, I would say these are women who want more information and want to know more. So a majority of them take that next step and come see me anyway. And that's the point where we can do sort of testing on day 2 or 3, then bring them back to check their tubes and all of the other options. I think our point with Lilia testing was, let's make it simple for them. And the truth of the matter is that your AMH level is probably going to be a better reflection of your ovarian reserve than the FSH or the estrogen, even if it's tested on day 3.
Right. And I completely understand all this, but I'm just now thinking in terms of what's going on in the world right now and what is necessary and what the demand will be. And I can
Yeah.
just so see that, even when we go back to what is considered the norm, it's not
It'll
going to
be a
be
new
normal.
normal.
It's going to
Well,
be
it's
a new
interesting that
normal.
you mentioned that, because I think, we shouldn't ignore the other half of the relationship in a, heterosexual relationship. There's a guy, right? So we've toyed with the idea of sperm testing and male testing, because you're right. We should include everybody, and we should try to do more testing if possible. I think, things are opening up, and you had a webinar just on this yesterday. So I don't think we're at a point, hopefully, we're not at a point where things are going to really fully shut down again. So at this point, it looks like you can come in and do all of your additional testing. I mean, certainly if it got to a point where the world was shut down, Lilia would certainly consider doing all the other testing. It would be a great place for us to expand, but the hope is that that won't happen. And this is just a stepping stone to move forward with additional testing and treatment.
Okay. So basically what you're pointing to is that, Lilia is not like a standalone end all be all testing. So you really want to put it in conjunction with.
Absolutely. What we see it as complementary. However, I should say, and Alyssa can comment on this, there's probably a subset of patients or women who come to Lilia who are, let's say, 25, have no partner, maybe don't have the money to egg freeze yet, and they find out they have a great AMH. It might be a full stop there for a couple of years, because they could theoretically wait a few years to freeze their eggs, even though we know that younger is better. They might just be in medical school or, in college, and they're just not ready yet, and they don't have the funds. So I think that there's a role for Lilia to be standalone in that patient population, just to know and feel safe. Alyssa was mentioning her family member with premature menopause. Women really understand their family dynamics. And I have tons of patients who come to me and say, I have a family history of early menopause. I'm sure all of those patients, if they found out at 25, when they're not even thinking about kids, if they found out they have a lower AMH, they might freeze their eggs. Or if they have a good AMH, they'd feel a lot more reassured about the whole fertility game and not feel like, oh my God, I have to get pregnant right now.
Right.
Yeah. And to add to that, it really depends on where a woman's at and what her goals are. To Patty's point, if she's 25 and she just wants to see what's up, she takes the test and we say, great, come back, check again next year. Because again, this changes over time. If someone wants to have babies for sure, but not in the next 5 years, that person may take the next step and go visit a fertility clinic to do the ultrasound and chat with a fertility doctor like Dr. Sharma. And so, when folks come through, it's like, you basically have a few options. You do your test, you understand your AMH, and then you can either do nothing, right? Come back in 6 to 12 months, test again, see how things have changed. You can go to a clinic for an additional consult to do more blood work, ultrasound, chat with a doctor. You can freeze your eggs or embryos, or you can get pregnant now. Those are basically the options, right? And so it really just depends.
Yeah, no, and I mean, those are all the things I discuss with patients, but this also goes hand in hand with what Alyssa and I have been talking about, that we want Lilia to be not just a static one-time relationship, but a longitudinal relationship with a client over their reproductive lifetime. And we've actually talked about potentially following a woman through her reproductive life stages. So first, when they're, single or in an early relationship and just want to know about their fertility. And then when they're entering sort of the trying to conceive phase, if they're having trouble, or if they had their baby number 1 without a problem and they need help with baby 2. And then maybe when they're done having 2 kids and are interested in contraception or dealing with premenopause. So we're hoping that eventually it will really be a nice longitudinal relationship where they can touch base with Lilia throughout this sort of 10-year period, 5 to 10-year period. And we're sort of guiding them about their reproductive health.
Right. That sounds great. Now, because Lilia, we're speaking to and addressing one product. Are there other products out there in the market currently?
So there's nowhere else that you could get as comprehensive a test with the ability for women to connect with someone as qualified as Dr. Sharma. about their results. So there's nothing else to this degree. There are other things that are a bit more incomplete, but nothing else where you've got this test, this panel, and connecting with such an expert like Dr. Sharma.
So we're in Ontario, and typically healthcare general testing would be free. So I don't imagine this is going to be covered by healthcare. This is
so AMH is not covered by the government, and so whether you use Lilia or go to a clinic, you'd still end up paying. So Lilia is $219, and if you went to a clinic, it'd be between about $100 and $150 depending on the clinic. And so because AMH isn't covered anyway, with Lilia, you're really just paying a bit of a premium for convenience and the ability to connect with Dr. Sharma.
Right. So that was my next question. So is there like an extra fee to consult with Dr. Sharma?
No, it's included. And in fact, another benefit that we forgot to mention is everybody who purchases a kit becomes a Lilia member, and they join our Slack group of other women who are, in this stage of their life and just considering what next steps for themselves might be.
So what is this, like a chat group, support group?
Yeah, exactly. So they join the group, and then folks chat about, I got this test result, or what are folks thinking about this? Has anybody frozen their eggs? It's this support group for women who aren't necessarily thinking about having kids right now, and have a space to really lean on each other.
Okay. I didn't know that we were going to veer off to this direction, but of course that's just natural. So, because a lot of the people that will come on board and watch the show will be those that are currently trying to conceive generally. Alyssa, I think you're on. Oh, no, you're not on mute anymore. Okay, great.
Oh, yeah. It's just because I can hear my partner in the background. So I don't want
to So in terms of what would you like to say to those women that are currently trying to conceive and having issues right now? How can you see you helping them in this with Lilia?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Prati, Dr. Sharma, you can expand on this, but the way I think about it is it's a really good first step for folks, whether they're trying to conceive or not. Like Dr. Sharma said, if someone's been trying for a few months and they don't necessarily want to go through the whole process of the fertility clinic just yet, they can start by getting some information super comfortable in a non-intimidating way, from their home, to give them a data point, right? A lot of us are kind of doing this with a finger in the air of, how it might happen. And so this is just some piece of data for people to inform what they might want to do next. Dr. Sharma, is there anything you might add to that?
I can also comment. So as much as I say that fertility treatment and women sort of becoming empowered about their reproductive health has increased, I think in parallel with that, a lot of women who are young, like let's say 25, 27, 30, go to their family doctor and they say, oh, I'm interested in trying, or I've been trying for a few months, and I'd like to know more. And oftentimes the family doctors, due to no fault of theirs, will say to them, oh, you're 28, everything's probably fine. Try for a few more months before we do any additional testing. And they're not wrong to say that, because, these are young couples who have a probably 80% chance of conceiving naturally in a 1-year timeline. But we all know women have their own personal timeline and anxiety levels. And they think, I want to have baby number 1 at 29 and baby number 2 at 31 and baby number 3 at 33. And that allows me to pursue my career. And, we all want everything in a nice, perfect box. So for those patients who are being told, you've only been trying for 3 months, just go home and keep doing what you're doing, relax, they might feel better doing the Lilia test and maybe finding out everything's normal and then feeling comfortable with just trying for 3 more months naturally with timed intercourse before moving on to a fertility doctor. Or they might do the test and find out at 31 they have a low AMH. They can go back and get a referral and say, look, hey, I just found out my AMH is low. I want to pursue more aggressive treatment and get in. So there's just so many widespread situations. And like I tell every patient who walks into my clinic, because, every patient says, well, my friend got pregnant this way, they all have their personal friend story. I say every patient and every couple has a different story, and you're a unique fertility picture that, it's a puzzle for me to figure out, and just everybody's different, and we need to find out what's relevant to your situation.
Right.
That is totally right. Actually, we have a bunch of members who have come through and had just exactly that scenario. They went to their doctor says, don't worry about it. And then this is just a way for them to kind of feel some element of control and have some kind of data to inform how they're feeling and what they want to do. And it happens, right? And I had a family member who went through premature menopause at 36. We've seen folks come through at 29, with premature ovarian failure. And that's not to scare anybody. Like, fear does not run the show here. It's really just so people have that information and can act accordingly.
Yes. And I love that you say this, because of course there are women and couples that I see that have been trying for a while, and they just are resistant to go to the fertility clinic.
Absolutely.
'Cause
There's
it's a little
certainly still a
scary.
little bit of a stigma, right? No
Right?
matter what, there's a little stigma to going to a fertility doctor.
So, that could be 35, 40 even, right? So I could see how this can be indicated for this subset of women and couples. It's like, you know what? I'm not ready to go to the fertility clinic. So let's see what we can do. Let's see where our baseline is. And then if we need to doing this test, all right, fine. Then I'll surrender to the fertility clinic. But why should we, if we've just been trying for X number of months and I feel good about myself, right? So I'm not saying yay or nay to the fertility clinic, but it's just people in their time will choose to go to the fertility clinic, right?
Yeah. And Lilia is it's an easy, low commitment, low effort first step. They may very well end up at the fertility clinic, and there's absolutely no shame in that at all. And this just gives them it's like a small little baby step that's comfortable, low commitment, and easy for them to do.
Right.
And I think, Mary, like, you both nailed it on the head at a certain point. And Mary, you and I have talked about this, where patients are reluctant to move to IVF or reluctant to move to donor egg. And it's the same picture for some women who have regular periods. They say, I'm healthy, I have regular periods, there can't be anything wrong with me. I just want to try at home. And so this is a nice entry point, rather than the whole shebang of like coming to the clinic, getting a referral, and then having that pressure of saying, I'm an infertility patient, because that carries a lot of weight and a lot of stigma. Even though infertility has really become known as a very prevalent problem, I think women feel self-conscious sometimes to feel labeled as an infertile patient. And so by doing some of these tests and either feeling reassured or learning that maybe there's something there, it just makes the journey easier.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for that input. I think that's really well said. So can it take the place of fertility testing at the fertility clinic?
I would say no.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No,
okay.
You go ahead and I can comment after you, for sure.
I would say no. I would say, what I would hate is for people to listen to this conversation and think, I take the Lilia test and I never have to think about this again. I know that I'm fertile, and, Prati is the one who taught me, fertility is not static. It is not binary. It's not a yes or no thing, and it changes over time. And there's no one thing that can tell you, I'm sorry, other than having a baby this month, you're fertile or you're not. And this test will not tell you that answer. It is one piece of a much more complicated puzzle and a much larger fertility picture. And so it's a really important question to ask, understanding our bodies. And this is very important and powerful information. But I don't think it can ever fully replace, especially if you're experiencing challenges, a fertility doctor, looking at the case. There's also, we haven't talked about antral follicle counts and ultrasounds that fertility doctors do to get a more complete picture, how important age is, right? And so I would say that the thrust of the point I want to make here is it's something to be checked often, yearly. It changes over time. And that it's not binary, it's not green or red.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this goes along with the fact that every client is going to be different and everybody's going to have a different scenario. So I actually feel like the conversation with the fertility doctor, even though it's probably more time consuming for myself, I always say that it would be great if every single Lilia patient had that mini 10-minute conversation with me, because you have the AMH, but that AMH means different things depending on if you're 20, 30, or 40, and if you're single in a relationship, trying or not trying to conceive, and when you want to have kids. And so, believe it or not, I've learned this from working with Lilia and Alyssa, that yes, a fertility doctor's consult is normally 1 hour in the clinic, but in a 10-minute period, you can get someone's story. And what I do is I listen to the patient for 5 to 10 minutes about where they're at, and everybody kind of has their little 5-sentence blurb. Okay, I'm in school. I don't want to conceive now. I'm in a relationship, but the guy doesn't want kids yet. Like, it takes 5 minutes to find that out. And from that, I can say, look, you would be a great candidate to come in and do the rest of the workup to see if he's fertile and consider egg or embryo freezing. And we talked about the 3 options: do nothing, get pregnant, or repeat your Lilia testing every year. So I think patients have that AMH level, but then have this little mini conversation, and they are sort of armed with the tools to say, do I need more or do I need less? So in answer to your original question, Mary, I certainly don't think Lilia can replace a fertility evaluation, but it certainly is complementary. And in some cases, it might be a good start and enough for a client for that time period.
Right.
Yeah. And again, I think it depends on the goals, right? If you're 25, you're just checking things out, you take the test, great, let's check next year. I understood my AMH, and then I wanted to freeze my eggs. And so I went next to the clinic and did, the workup. If someone who's trying, they may do the same. And so it really just depends where you're at. But they're certainly complementary. And what I love about it is it increases access for women who want, rightfully, information to their body.
I agree 100%. So I love that you created this company, and it does and will empower women and couples. And there's a comment here. There hasn't been any questions, but the one comment. So I would love for you to reiterate what the 4 tests are, because they asked if there's the thyroid level is being tested.
Yes, if you're okay, Alyssa. The 4 tests are AMH, which is anti-Müllerian hormone, and it's a hormone that's produced by the eggs. It's actually produced by the follicles, which are the units that house the eggs. Higher levels of AMH are considered better, and lower levels are associated with lower fertility. I don't want to harbor on the numbers per se, because different numbers are normal for different ages. We do check the thyroid test. It's called the TSH. So that's included. The prolactin, which is the hormone that's responsible for milk secretion from the breast, and also very commonly associated with thyroid disease and common abnormality in reproductive age women to be overproduction. And finally, testosterone levels, which are mild elevations, are associated with polycystic ovary syndrome, which is, again, a common reproductive disorder in young women, can present with irregular cycles, difficulty conceiving, as well as signs of high male hormone. So we pick the things that are most common. Hypo or hyperthyroidism is very common, hyperprolactinemia, PCOS, and of course, diminished ovarian reserve is the one thing we want to find quickly.
Right. And so I just want to put it out there that whenever you get the test and, it may look suboptimal, it doesn't actually mean that you can't get pregnant. Right.
No.
So
and I say that to my patients all the time. Like, as long as there's eggs and sperm present and open tubes, there's always a possibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Mary, because, sometimes women will come through and they'll get a diminished AMH and they kind of freak out and they book a call with Pratty as soon as they can. And, again, it's important to understand this isn't, a fertility death sentence. This is the sooner you know what's true, the more options you have. And there are certainly fertility doctors that can help. There are folks like you. There are all kinds of things people can do. It's getting the information early that increases optionality.
Right. Yeah. So I always look at it as, and I call it, this is your baseline. And from that baseline, here are your options. So we can go see someone like Dr. Sharma, but we can also do more complementary types of therapy as well to help, because there's lots of data points now and lots of research and interest about what other things can help with the whole reproductive health. And we've seen it, like, you hear about it, in fact, right? So, just go on a holiday and you'll get pregnant. And it does happen. So it's, again, look at it as a baseline and have that be a place of empowerment for you to choose whatever direction you choose.
Exactly.
Or both. The complementary of both is always key, in my opinion. So,
so you make a good point, Mary. Just like we say that complementary medicine and fertility treatment can go hand in hand, and there are sort of different ways of targeting the same issue. I think it's the same with the Lilia relationship. We all just want to help each other and help as many people as possible achieve their fertility goals.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm just really in admiration of what you have created, Alyssa, because there's a great need for it, and certainly a great demand for it, because as I said earlier, no one wants to just spontaneously pop into a fertility clinic. No offense, Dr. Sharma.
No,
Not something you do like on
this is
your way
why
home
I'm
from
part of
work.
this.
Yeah, well, and I've got to say, I certainly could not have gotten this far without Dr. Sharma's guidance and expertise. Again, I'm not a fertility doctor, and so I was lucky to stumble across somebody like her.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you both for joining us this evening. It has been very enlightening, and I hope you all have, well, let me just double check. There hasn't been any questions anymore, so that's good. Okay. You guys did so well. There are no questions.
Well, you're always welcome to shoot us any questions if you or anyone in the audience has, and hopefully people will be watching it later if they want more information. And there's a great website that details Lilia in more, has more information.
Yeah, hellolilia.com.
Right. Okay. Thank you for saying that. And we'll pop it in. Maybe you can pop it into the comments later.
Yeah.
And so for those of you watching, hit the post, share it so that everyone can be helped by this conversation. And next week, we are going to be speaking live with Elizabeth Sheravati, and she's talking about the IVF meal plan. It's a book that's in paperback currently out there, and she'll actually specifically address, one of her favorite recipes. So I think that'll be a fun, lighthearted conversation. And so that'll be great. So you can subscribe and watch 166 posts currently, and subscribe to Meet Mary Wong, which is my YouTube channel. And otherwise you can scroll down below and see other past fertility talks. So thank you both for being here this evening.
Thank you, Mary.
Really wanna,
Yes.
yeah, and I just want to acknowledge again that people that come on this show, they do it out of the kindness of their heart to give you the information that will empower you in your fertility journey. And so thank you for volunteering your time and effort and love in this and passion in this field of ours and helping our peeps.
Oh yeah, we got you.
All right, guys. So let's sign off. Take care. Bye for now, everyone.
Ciao.
Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.